What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, former two-division world champion, former junior welterweight unified world champion, former WBC welterweight world champion, Danny Swift Garcia, superstar boxer, will be taking on undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Errol the True Spence Jr. December 5th in Dallas, Texas at Cowboy Stadium on Fox pay-per-view. And before that, Danny Swift Garcia has a stern, stiff message for Errol Spence Jr. Danny Garcia says Errol Spence Jr. is not a truth. He's not the truth. In all actuality, he's a lie. And I'm going to expose him December 5th when I either dominate him or knock him out. But I know where I came up short in my two losses against former unified WBC, WBA, welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman and former two-time welterweight world champion Showtime Shawn Porter. So Danny Garcia says, I understand what I did wrong in those fights, and I will not make that mistake this time. He says, I believe Errol Spence Jr. is 100%. I don't want any excuses, but he just isn't the truth. He's actually a lie, and I'm going to expose it December 5th. Wow. Well, my thoughts is this. I think that this is a great fight. I think that we're going to get two high-quality, high-profile fighters in their peak competing. Danny Garcia gave Errol Spence his props. Obviously, he stated that he definitely is great. He stated that, he's one of the best in the world. He says you're going to have two of the best welterweights in the world competing for King of the Hill, essentially, to prove who is the best welterweight in the world. He says this is his second opportunity. As Errol Spence is saying, this is my second chance after suffering that horrific car accident just 12 days after unifying his belts against Showtime Shawn Porter. September 28th, October 10th is when he suffered a horrific car accident. But with that said, Errol Spence is saying that this is his second chance. He's going to be far more focused. He's far more disciplined. He says, I'm rededicated myself with the sport of boxing. I understand what the sport of boxing provides for me, myself, and my family. So this is a second chance, and I'm not letting it go to waste. Well, Danny Garcia is saying this is my third chance, and I absolutely cannot let this slip away because I don't know if I'm going to be in this position again. I was in this position twice, and I came up short in these high-profile fights. So this is my third opportunity. I can't let this go to waste because my back is against the wall, and I do not guarantee myself to be in this position for a fourth time. Well, now, I beg to differ because Danny Garcia, depending upon how he loses this fight, it all hinges on if Danny Garcia wants to move forward, because even a loss to Errol Spence in a close fight, Danny Garcia is still a high-profile fight. People still want to see Danny Garcia and the likes of Terrence Crawford, Danny Garcia and Jaron Ennis, Danny Garcia and Virgil Ortiz, Danny Garcia and Mikey Garcia. So he has a lot of still high-profile fights. The fight between himself and Jaron Ennis, I don't know if that'll come to fruition, seeing as though they are both from Philadelphia. They're very close friends. I don't know how, realistic that is, but the buildup for that would be huge. And imagine that taking place in Philadelphia, Jaron Ennis, Danny Garcia. So he has other big fights. I think he means this is his last opportunity to prove that he's the best, right? Because he lost to Errol Spence. Now you lost to Shawn Porter, Keith Thurman. You lost to the best of the best at welterweight. And unless you get rematches with those fights to rectify him, nobody's going to view you as the best in the welterweight division. So I understand from that standpoint. But there's definitely big fights for him in the future if he allows himself to continue. Maybe he wants to retire after that. Maybe he feels, deflated. Maybe he feels discouraged and say that's it and hangs him up. Who knows? But Danny Garcia, this lets me know that we are going to get a fight of the year type of fight. Now, Errol Spence already gave us a fight of the year fight when he fought Shawn Porter. That was high impact, high action, high quality fight between Shawn Porter and Errol Spence. We even got a knockdown in the 11th round. There was a lot of dramatic in the fight, right? There was a lot of rounds flip-flopping. One round go to Errol Spence, one round go to Shawn Porter. One round go to Errol Spence, one round go to Shawn Porter. 2 rounds go to Errol Spence, Shawn Porter win the next round. So there was a lot of changing of the guard, so to speak. So with that said, he already gave us a fight of the year. Now he's on the verge of doing so again. And this pay-per-view is going to be successful because there's a lot of intrigue to see how Errol Spence is going to look coming back after suffering a horrific car accident. You listen to Errol Spence, he didn't even think he would come back. He said he still had a lot of pain in his neck lingering. He had a lot of pain in his hip. He was questioning himself, dare I say. And he asked his trainer, a legendary trainer and trainer of the year, Derrick James, if he would be able to bounce back. And Derrick James said he helped him, mentally get back to the understanding that he could do this. So Derrick James said that this is going to be the biggest comeback in the history of all sports. I think it definitely has the potential to do so because we saw the visual of the car flipping multiple times and throwing him out the car. So that visual, we heard of a lot of guys, having injuries and, what could have been career-ending injuries and they bounce back. But you don't always see the visual of it. And so we saw the visual outside of the sport, right? So there's a difference when you see a guy get hurt in football. You see his, unfortunately, maybe he breaks his leg or tears his ACL and things of that nature, right? And then they come back. Or you see, basketball players pop their Achilles, and then they come back. But outside the ring, outside the sport, we saw Errol Spence. We saw the visual, and we could go back to that visual. And to see him walk away from that and then come back to the sport as physical a combat sport is and be able to be the same or even better speaks volumes. So with that said, I think Danny Garcia is going to bring everything he has. He's going to let him fly in this fight. You're going to get a lot of action in this fight. This is not going to be a high-level chess match unless Errol Spence chooses to make this a high-level chess match because Errol Spence has the versatility and the skill set to make this a high-level chess match. He could just fight on the outside. He could move around the ring if he so choose. He could box like he did 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia. He outboxed Mikey Garcia, outclassed Mikey Garcia from rounds 1 through 12, won every single round. Now, I thought Mikey Garcia may have edged out the first or second round, maybe, if you want to be generous. But for the most part, Errol Spence outboxed Mikey Garcia, right? And so, we know he's versatile. And see, that's the thing, right? That's where I have hesitation on the part of picking Danny Garcia because he's not as versatile. He doesn't have as many tools in the toolbox as Errol Spence Jr. has in the toolbox. So Errol Spence Jr. is rightfully the favorite in this fight because he just has more versatility to his game, to his approach to the sport of boxing. He could mix it up on the inside. He could be a dog if he so chooses. But then Errol Spence could box you from the outside. Now we see Danny Garcia. He is what we get, right? We know what Danny Garcia is. We know what he's going to bring to the table. He's a power counterpuncher. That's what he is, right? He's never first. He's always second, right? And if you're not first in these high-level fights, in these high-quality fights against high-level opposition that are versatile, then you're going to come up short. If you're not first, you're last. Then you lose the fight, right? And so Danny Garcia likes to wait on his opponents. Thus the reason why he has such slow starts against Shawn Porter and Keith Thurman, right? And Lamont Peterson even, right? Because he's not versatile. He's flat-footed, right? He's a flat-footed power counterpuncher. You understand? So he relies on you for his game to be effective. His game, his approach is hinged to you. He works off of his opponent. And so if you have a slick boxer that has a lot of tools in the toolbox that are versatile, right? They understand that his game is hinged to them. So they're going to take him on a wild goose chase. They're going to, it's like a tail, right? It's like a trailer. So if you take a sharp turn, you'll lose the trailer. You understand? As long as you follow a path and a small, steady pace, the trailer will stay hinged to you. But if you speed up and you make notified turns, or you make sudden moves, then that trailer is going to flip. You're going to lose the trailer. And that's where, referring to Danny Garcia's game, if you make sudden moves, if you make a lot of twists and turns, and you give him a lot of different varieties to your game, and you give him a lot of different looks, he don't let his hands go. He's not active. He's inactive. He's hesitant because he waits for the perfect opportunity. And then when he understands that he's behind on the cards, at times he could get desperate and start looping and throwing wild, uncoordinated punches, right? And he opens up himself for counter punches then, right? And he's not the most athletic, quickest guy. Now, he has power in both hands, and he's a counter puncher. He has great timing. But what beats timing? What beats timing? Being unorthodox, being untimely. You understand? Doing stuff, subtle, making subtle movements, things that you can't time, right? Don't repeat yourself. If you repeat yourself and you give him a pattern, he could time that pattern. But if you don't give him the pattern, then he can't time it. So you render him helpless, right? You disarm Danny Garcia when you do that. Now, then in the second half of the fight, he has to press. He starts pressing. Look at the Porter-Keith Thurman fight. He starts pressing the fight. He's pressing you. He's pressing you. He's pressing you. Thus, again, he leaves himself wide open for counters at that point in time. And Errol Spence is so versatile with the left hand. He'll pivot on him when Danny Garcia, and he could go to his body. He's going to attack his body more than Danny Garcia has ever been attacked to the body. Because a lot of people are not willing to commit to Danny Garcia's body because you have to be worried about what's coming back in return, because he's going to let his hands go. When you let your hands go, he's going to let his hands go. Believe that. That's when he's active. But when you giving him feints and you giving him subtle movements and you're not giving him a pattern, he's hesitant. He's hesitant. And that's why I favor Errol Spence to win this fight. But I believe in this fight, because Danny Garcia understands what's at stake, and just from the fact that Danny Garcia feels like this is my last opportunity, he's going to start off fast. You're going to see Danny Garcia outside of his element. You're going to see a different version of Danny Garcia when the bell first rings. He's going to let his hands go immediately. He's going to try to be first, but he's going to be out of character in doing so. And eventually, once he sees that that's not going to work, because Errol Spence is going to counter that. Errol Spence is versatile enough to be the counter puncher and be defensive. And when that's not working, because Danny Garcia is not as athletic, he's not as quick. He doesn't have the quick twitch muscles and fibers that Errol Spence has. So when he's on the attack and he's trying to be first, that's going to give Errol Spence the ability from the southpaw stance to counter Danny Garcia. And when Danny Garcia starts to get discouraged, not having as much success as he thinks he's going to have doing that, then he's going to resort back to what he normally is, and that's the counter puncher and sitting back, and then he's going to lose rounds. So I'm expecting Errol Spence to win this fight 8-4, right, in favor of Errol Spence. I think Errol Spence is going to be versatile. I think he's going to be cautious. I think he's going to be disciplined. He's going to have stamina that we've never seen before. I think we're going to see the best version of Errol Spence. And we already know what we get from Danny Garcia. So he's going to be out of character for the first couple of rounds because he's going to look to start fast. That's why he's saying, I know what I did wrong against Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. I started off too slow. That's not going to work against Errol Spence. It's best for Danny Garcia to try to counter and lure Errol Spence in a fight, his fight, opposed to trying to press the fight and being out of character in his own right, because he just don't have the quick twitch fibers or the quick feet to be able to sustain that for 12 rounds. So let's see how this all plays out. But drop a comment in the comment section. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share the videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.